Hey guys, I'm working on a letter journal today. It's okay for me to show you because by the time you see this, she'll have already gotten it back. I'm not going to air this until then, but I'm working on this today. And when I'm waiting for it to dry, like right now, I've been taking, and I'll move this out of the way, some time to organize a few things again, still in my art studio. It's a constant battle to stay organized. Of course, you all know that. You start a project, you pull a bunch of stuff out, things get messy, and then you're like, crap, what did I do with whatever? So yeah, so it's a constant battle to stay organized, keep putting things away, and not let it get to just be a complete junk room full of chaos. I have two IKEA carts. One of them is loaded with paint, and it's also where I set my tray on with my wet brushes while they're drying, and it always is set up that way. One of the tips I want to share with you today is I love to do some of the drippy, watery media things like Flora Bowley does on her canvases, where she puts the paint on there and then sprays it with a bunch of water so it drips. I love to do that on my canvases too, but my studio is in the house and my carpet in here is beige, although it does have paint splatters on it. So I try not to do too much of that in here, and when I do, I try to make sure I've got a plastic bag or something under my easel. I will still do that, but I had another idea. I actually got the inspiration from Shannon Green. I went to an auto show recently with my husband. I got some chamois, and you know, these things absorb a lot of water. And my husband was going to get some new ones anyway, so I said, if you get a roll, can I have a couple of them? So I got this smaller one and one huge one, and I figured I could fold it up. You know, it's 4/8 ply thick, and stick it underneath my canvas, and as things are dripping, they're going to catch on here. Most of it's going to stay on here until this gets totally saturated. I don't see that happening, but it could. But set this underneath your canvas where you're dripping things, and it's going to catch all the drips, and they're not going to get all over the place. So that's one good tip. Thank you, Shannon Green. Then my other cart is set up for art journaling, and I have lots of collage papers. I pull a few out of my stash every few weeks and load up my cart, and I'm trying hard to use up some of that stash and keep the cart full. What's on the cart and what's out and handy is what I'm more likely to use. I only dig through my stash of stuff when I'm looking for images for my collage journal. But when I'm just looking for ephemera and old book text, tissue paper, napkins, whatever, I like to keep a selection of things on the cart. I can just grab from there, work on a page, work on a letter journal, like I did today with this letter journal here, and just grab a few things and collage this, set it aside to dry, and I don't have to worry about digging through a bunch of stuff to just find 2 or 3 little pieces of paper. The problem with that is I had so much stuff on there. It wasn't in boxes, it was just stacked and racked in rows. That I had trouble finding that little bit of tissue I knew was in the bottom. So I got an idea. When I went to the office supply store, they had a bunch of these folders. These actually go in a binder. They actually have dividers in them. And I had the idea initially to just get a couple of them to fill them up with holiday stuff. And when I want to work on Christmas or winter themed journal pages or Rolodex cards, I can just grab the winter folder. This is the Valentine's Day one because right now that's mostly what I'm using as far as holidays go. But I also had the idea, you know what, this would work to fill one up with bits and pieces of scrap tissue and napkins that I want to use up. I have this one that's full of just odd small bits of paper. These are too big to fit in the faux printer's tray that I also do still use. They're too big for that, but they're too small to just be stacked neatly in rows in the cart. They get lost in the bottom. So now they're in this folder, and I can just open up this folder and dig through some of these and pull out things I want to use and play with and use in my collage. So that's really super handy. Last tip. I was also working on my watercolor palettes. I have been doing a lot more watercoloring lately, as you all know, and one thing I'm finding is having those media out and handy really make a difference in how much I use them. And I love my new large Robax palettes, Robax Engineering. You can Google them. I think it's Robax. And I was working with them today, and they have these printable templates to make a color chart out of. So I was swatching all of the paints that are on here. Not that they're not already swatched, they are. They're in my reference book. But I don't want to always have my reference book out on the table when I'm playing with these paints. I want to just be able to, at a glance, know which colors are which. And I have some new watercolor paints coming in that should fill this up. So I wanted to get what's on here done before the new ones come in. And then this will probably all be filled up. But I thought, you know, and I have two of these. This is my watercolor one. I have one for gouache, which is more of an opaque watercolor paint. And I also have some Twinkling H2Os, which I don't use enough because they're not really handy. They were just sitting in their little pots in the center of the gouache palette, which was okay, but it wasn't really handy either. I thought, you know, I really would like something like this where they're just open without the lids on them, and I have a little palette to tell me what the colors look like. But I don't want to buy it. These are expensive, and they don't. I only have 24 Twinkling H2Os. I have at least at this time no intention of buying any more. So I thought, what do I have just laying around that I could just use? You know, I found something. It's a pencil box with the lid. So I made up a card on watercolor paper, and I swatched all my colors. I took all the lids off and set them in the pencil box. I have one that the little pot just, you know, basically it was exploded. So I dug all the paint out and I put it in this other little, I had only one of these little small pots. It's taller than the others, but that's okay. But they all 24 colors fit in here. I can just leave it open like this, or after the water dries up, I can put this on top and I can close it up. And it still sits right on top of my gouache color palette. When I want to use them, I just pull it out. Here they are. I can set this off to the side so I know which is which. And these all have little labels on the bottom, so I can still lift them up and look at it and see which color is which. If this was a little skinnier and a little longer, I could actually line them up just like I have them on the palette, but it's not, so that's fine. But this will work, and it was free. I had it all already. So I think that's going to work really well for me. So those are my quick tips for right now. That's all I can think of at the moment. I hope you all are having a great day. Don't forget to go out and do something nice for yourself because you deserve it, and I'll see you later.